This is Vam Electric Ghost, and we are live with the Power Couple and their director. You want to introduce your director?
Yeah, this is the one and only, the great Sam Singer.
So guys, pleasure.
Yeah. So we're going to actually be showing the Power Couple in their new video. But before that, we do have to take care of a little business with our sponsor. We are now sponsored by a brand out there that is philanthropic online gaming from DoubleJack out of Germany. And what they do is they do Powerball, they do Keno, but you actually donate to charity like half the money. And so we're just pushing this as a sponsor for the program. And now you can see the link there and you'll be able to check it out after the program. But we'll get into the main interview with our guest here today. And it's the Power Couple. You guys were actually on the show before, and we're glad to have you on again.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm glad to be back.
So let me get your information out there. So we got your link to your main website, and it's Power Couple. There you go. So everybody note the link there. And we always want people to support the bands we talk to. You can check them out in your leisure. But we're actually going to queue up their video so that we can talk about it on the backside of the interview. But we got it set up to go. And this is Higher Love from your overall block project, right? That you're still working on.
Yes, still working.
Yeah.
And so this is a video I think we had talked about in our last interview, and we actually have it now. So we're going to put you on mute, and then we'll play the full video, and then we'll come back and have everybody talk about their role in the video and how this came to be.
Beautiful.
Okay, here we go. So we're going to kick it off now.
I can't believe I'm with you. I'm in a fantasy. This is a moment in the sea when the sun and the ocean meet. Moving in time with your heart and breathing with the beat. We are the moon and the sea. There's a pull that you have on me. Love me with the higher love. Love me with the higher love. Love me with the higher love. With the higher love. When I give in to your touch and you give in to me, turn off our thoughts and release our control of the way we feel. A little bit of adrenaline and we shivering, lifting me up. I don't know if we're in heaven here, but I've never been this high above. Love me with the higher love. Love me with the me higher love. Tell me you love me. Tell me you love me higher love. Tell me you love me. Tell me you love me higher love. With the higher love. Tell me you love me. Tell me you love me higher love. Tell me you love me. Tell me you love me higher love. Tell me you love me. Tell me you love me higher love. With the higher love.
So that was Higher Love, and now we're back with the primary interview. So that's a really awesome video. I love the effects. You guys can hear me, right?
Oh yeah,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Yeah, I love the like what happened at the end with like the rift, and then the kind of like your forced separation. So maybe talk about how you developed that in terms of the whole concept of what you've been doing with the project we talked about before, and now the realization with this video.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I'm
Go
good.
with it.
Whoever wants to go first with that.
So this video is actually like a culmination of the whole basically visual EP that's coming out next year.
Mhm.
So it's the first taste that people are getting of what that is. It's not the first part of the video and it's not the end. So it's actually like the climax. So I don't want to tell you exactly what happens or the whole story, but basically, you know, obviously you can see that in the very beginning, he's in like a study type thing, like a sleep study. And then we go into this new surreal kind of fairy tale like world where we find each other and it's very romantic and very connected, but then we get torn apart. And a big question in the movie is, you know, can we find each other again? And was that even real? What happened or not? And that's something that we try to answer later on in the movie. And it's kind of the whole concept behind what's called mind, is what happens in our mind, what is real, what is a dream, you know, and playing with these themes of truth versus fantasy and where it all merges and all the parts of our brain we don't even truly understand, right, that we haven't tapped into yet. But also about healing and overcoming grief and loss and healing through love, self-love, love with a partner, and love for life. So that was kind of why we have that moment, which is probably pretty surprising when you hear the song. You wouldn't expect that to happen in the video, but the video is telling its own story.
So this is all part of the 4-part blocks, and we have talked before about feel, and now this is mind.
Yeah, Mind is what's going to be coming out next. It's another 4 songs, part of a blocks concept that we're doing, and this is just this is one part of the short film that we're doing. So it's very exciting. We're super happy that we're actually getting to work with Sam, who really helped us like bring this vision out. We kind of came to him with a concept and he just saw that and expanded, and it was a really, really, really great team effort. All of us just kind of throwing all of our ideas in and collaborating, and you know, this is our debut music video. This is our first time doing it. So
this kind of harkens back to the days, like I'm in my 50s, right? So I'm a child of the 70s. And one of the things I loved about the early MTV is like film directors, like, you know, if you look at the old Duran Duran videos, they were like mini films. And then a lot of other directors started coming in and saying, oh, look what we can do. We don't just have to have the band lip sync. We can actually do this concept. And it's kind of like, it's being a synthesis. I'm a big fan of bands like Genesis and Pink Floyd and Yes, and the kind of big ideas of rock operas like Tommy and Quadrophenia. And so I'm a big fan of people doing more expansive work and actually using film, or going back to even like the Velvet Underground and what they used to do with, you know, the Exploding Inevitable and the stuff that used to happen back then, is like the merging of art and music. I think is a really important thing today. And it's cool that you guys are doing that again, or part of it. was that part of the reason that you wanted to do this? Is to kind of like bring back that type of creativity that we used to have? Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. We've been inspired by other short form music videos and films and that sort of thing. But I think like probably the easiest way to say it is just like we felt like we had a story to tell, you know, and we were able to. The interesting thing is the first EP, we didn't like have an intention for weaving the songs together. Like we didn't think these songs all tell a story, but they did. And the second time with this new EP, again, same thing. We didn't think ahead of time, let's write these songs with a story in mind. We just wrote songs. As it turned out, they really, you know, do have a good story that we can tell. And again, you know, the three of us had kind of just brainstormed how the story was going to come together through the music. So.
Yeah, it was really cool how it all came together too, because basically last year everyone has their story about, you know, how they adjusted to the pandemic and the shutdown, but we're actually next door neighbors. And we've been longtime friends and worked together a little bit. Sam's done some photography for us, but you know, we were all put in this position where we thought we were going to be like touring Europe, and Sam was probably be gone every other day. But what do we do with our time? And we really created something completely new. Now we have a production team, a content creating team called Neon Monet. And we've created like the whole Beats, Kicks, and Life channel came from the three of us. And then this whole music video concept, like visual EP. And we're honestly, like the more we do it, the more we love it. And we're just so grateful to have this team to work together that honestly probably would not have happened had it not been for the pandemic that created this time together where we could just make something new.
And it seems like a visual EP, given the fact that we have been in lockdowns, that bands can't play typically like the kind of shows that bands usually play, that the idea of a visual EP with the way, you know, people are kind of drawn to visual media. And a lot of bands are taking advantage of the fact that you can, you know, do things through all these visual outlets. So in terms of the visual EP, does the audio EP, does all this whole project with blocks, is it eventually going to be an entire collection that people can buy the whole thing together, or it will be issued as separate pieces?
That's actually a good question. We have talked about it as various versions for the album. We're going to release it as 4 EPs. But eventually it may come together as a double album, but it'll be the first 2 EPs and then the second 2 EPs. And then
yeah, that would be really cool, because if you had like the visual album, if you actually could get it on like DVD.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's still in the works. Like we're still actually doing some shooting for it, and so the actual visual piece, there's scenes, there's dialogue, there's actors, we've hired spaces, like it's not just music. So it really is going to feel more like a short film. And, you know, we're hoping to get into some film festivals and submit it that way. So it's going to be a little bit different. It'll feel like a music video, but not really, right?
So that does kind of bode the questions. Like, so if it's a short film, would this be released as like a DVD?
I think the idea for sure eventually is to release the entire short film as its own standalone unit. I think obviously we released High Love as a single. We're talking about doing that with one of the other parts of the film as well, which ultimately we'll probably end up doing that. But the whole thing will be a cohesive short film on its own as well.
And then you would submit it for like festival review as an independent film across.
Yeah, it's just such a new inroad because, you know, Sam had his background in this a little bit, right? But you hadn't been working on it very much. And just the learning curve that took place and like learning what gear we needed. Honestly, like everything you see, we've had help, but it's really the three of us. And we've had our community supporting us, but we don't have like a huge budget and a huge team. So it's been really interesting. Like that scene where John's getting pulled back.
Yeah,
you know, like we had like the leaf blower to try to create wind, and then like we're trying to slam the door, and we had to build a door like 2 different times.
It's crazy.
How big? How big?
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot that went into it for sure. And
How big a team did you have to do the video? Because every time you do video, you might see, who's on screen, but how many people behind this did it take to do all this work?
So that video, with the exception of the very beginning of the video, which we shot in the studio in Burbank, here in California, the rest of the video is just the 3 of us, literally in the mountains, in the forest in Colorado, chasing sunsets and sunrises, like trying to get the right light.
Mhm.
We dealt with some weather and just trying to figure out how we can shoot the film, just the 3 of us, and like they're in costume, and it was a funny sight probably to see the 3 of us like marauding around the woods filming.
Yeah, they're like, what are you doing? They're like, those like campers out there. And
Yeah.
we got lucky because we only had like 3 days to
So
film.
So did you have campers like getting in the middle of your scene?
Occasionally, we're like, ah, man.
Curious. Yeah, people were curious a little bit.
Oh,
But,
I'm sorry. Like I didn't know you were filming.
yeah.
Yeah, but we only went to Colorado. We just drove out there. Sam and I are both from Colorado, and his family lives by the Four Corners. And we were like, we have this like week to get 2 different videos in, and it was amazingly with Higher Love. We got everything we needed. We didn't need any reshoot, or anything.
no,
Yeah.
actually,
It was
no,
kind of a
pretty good.
miracle.
So did you
Yeah.
guys like storyboard it out? Like I know on videos a lot of times they're very, there's a lot of preparation. People do like, the actual cartoon like storyboard and map out like every little piece. Is that at the level that you guys were working on this?
It was not. we kind of did a lot of it on the fly. I think we had a really well thought out idea of what we wanted to do, but so much of it was we just had no idea how we were going to do it.
Mhm.
And we didn't know where we were going to do it. We were driving around looking for locations, and and it just happened. It just happened.
That's interesting because I think that with music, like when you kind of merge music and filming, one of the things I love as a kind of musician that's inspired by jazz and kind of fusion and kind of like just roots rock, being a keyboardist is like I love being in like jam sessions and this kind of stream of consciousness with a band, right? And we might have a little bit of an idea, but we kind of just go with it. And so I think filmmaking that kind of goes that way too is interesting because it can kind of have the same aesthetic as having this kind of stream of consciousness kind of aesthetic. When you're a musician, sometimes you can go that way, and then you kind of see what happens, and you let the muse kind of fill you. Like some people feel like when you're an artist that you kind of tap into this universal concept, and the art kind of presents itself to you, and you take advantage of it. Do you guys feel that way, or?
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like the story is writing itself, and we're trying to figure out what it is, and we're still learning what it is. And it's like film improv or something.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. It's like you said, it's a story that needs to be told, and we're kind of along for the ride. Like we can see each of ourselves in it, but it's not just any one of us in our story.
Right.
I think it has universal themes.
Like a universal concept, like when you get into the concepts that people believe, when you get into music, a lot of times, like one of the great things, one of the key things that really got me into music was like Tommy Pete Townsend doing like Tommy, and this idea that he had this rock opera that you could take music and you could take it that far, that you could actually pick a rock album and actually have it mean more than just songs about breaking up with your girlfriend. That you actually could have a bigger idea. And
Yeah, I'm not sure if we talked about this last time, but like a lot of times, like I think we might have talked about songwriting process, but I in our process, like for me especially, like I tend to always see like a video, a movie going with the writing process. So it's not you're laying down chords, you're writing lyrics, but you're also seeing visually how this is kind of playing out in your mind.
Like a sound painting. I think we talked about the idea of sound painting.
Yeah.
Which like George Martin talked about it. There's a documentary about the Beatles, and George Martin was asked like, okay, how did you get into this kind of Sgt. Pepper, Abbey Road? How did the Beatles become that from what they were doing in Berlin? Yeah. And he said, well, I used to do Peter Sellers albums, and we used to do all these effects. and backward tape loops and all this stuff. And we said, well, what if we take all this studio capability and we kind of use it as a sound painting, right?
Mm,
That we can actually, because we could just record the Beatles like they're in Hamburg, or we could actually take all these studio techniques and do something that you can't do live.
right.
Right? And then you start to get into like the colors of music and the idea that music can be a sound painting. And Hendrix talked about that with Electric Lady too, that you can actually think of music in visual terms and maybe kind of filmmaking terms. And a lot of musicians kind of went that direction. You get the Pink Floyds of the world, Hendrix and the Beatles. And I think that's I think it's a common theme in the music to think in that way.
Yeah, for sure. And like that actually made the process a lot of fun, I think, too, in terms of, I was saying it was very, very collaborative. And like, when you're, an original musician, right? You're a little protective about your songs, like, like what, how they're going to be portrayed, how they're going to be represented. And
Yeah.
To Sam's like major credit, like it was just incredible to be able to work with, like, we would give him ideas and he would just like, let those ideas marinate and let them blossom and give us great direction. And it was a really, really, really easy process. Probably more for me than for them. I was like joking on the set, like just how like I feel so bad for how much they had to put up with like, me just throwing idea after idea out there. But
Get kind of like spitballing it. Like, let's do this, let's do that.
yeah, and both of them were very, very good at being like, that's a good idea, but let's read
We
that.
have
Let's
20
read
minutes
that.
left to play.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I felt very honored and very lucky to have such a supportive team, but also such a brilliant team. And the two of them that could like really see such a great vision and bring it to life.
Yeah, I mean, we've been in a lot of different bands and formations of different people, and it can be really challenging working with a group, of egos. But in this case, it's been really fluid, and I'm just so grateful because we all kind of just have our strengths that we bring to the table, and there's been some real challenges, like when the bats were flying towards you and the door broke and it was like 2 a.m. and everyone was asleep.
There was hail falling from the sky, even though the sky was basically clear.
Yeah.
you can't.
Obviously we don't have permits. We don't have any like.
Oh, did you ever run into somebody
Very
saying where's your permit and telling you had to leave a site?
Yeah.
Right, no, that didn't happen. But like, it just felt like we worked through the stuff as a team, and I'm really grateful for that. I'm almost scared to say anything because I'm like, I don't want to jinx it.
I know, yeah. But yeah, you know what? To use your reference actually of George Martin, like for visually, like Sam has been our George Martin. He really, he's just. I guess I just can't say enough because in looking at this, and I know we have. A whole short film coming out.
This is basically the teaser.
Yeah, and looking at, like obviously you guys don't know, but looking at that footage that we're seeing right now and all the work he's putting in, editing it,
and he's editing it too, so that's why
it's truly like something else. We're so excited to share it, but definitely want to just say how great it is.
We're just here to throw love on Sam.
It's interesting to me because I think anytime you're an artist, like I'm a solo artist, and sometimes I work with other artists, and I've been in bands, and the band dynamic is interesting enough if you have like a 4-person rock and roll band, right?
Yeah.
But then you integrate like a different different like art form.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about like you're integrating film with music, and there's different dynamics that are going on, but there's like synergy, and then there's things that are totally different. And so you have to, have the kind of like a George Martin kind of expertise that you're bringing to the table as a director. But then there's also like the musician, saying, well, this is how I see it. And so you have to, it's the give and take of being in a band. Like somebody comes to in a band with a demo, and then the bass player makes it sound better, right? Because like you might have done the bass in Ableton, but then a real bass player is going to actually take it and make it way better than what you did in Ableton on a MIDI keyboard. So it is like those kind of things. Like you come to, you take the raw material, and then it kind of evolves, and you have to have the kind of trust in your partners as creative people, right? To kind of say, okay, well, let's go with that. Let's see where it goes. So it's kind of you have to control your ego, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
When you're
absolutely.
working,
Like our idea was pretty basic, and Sam just took it and ran with it, and then we all were getting inspired by each other, and it changed a lot from the original plan. It's still evolving, It's kind of like
It's crazy. Like we've been saying the whole time, like the creative process itself is its own entity. Like, and yeah, we're just conduits of whatever we're tapping into, I think.
like the universal muse.
Yeah.
Or Pete Townshend used some of that single note, like the once was a note, pure and easy, and I kind of tap into it. This whole idea with like his Lifehouse project would never went anywhere, but there was this idea of there's a single note and you can tap into it. And it's kind of like the idea of the muse, or today, if you get out in the ether and you kind of pull it in. There was a story where Hendrix was working with the Isley Brothers, and he suddenly just started going off the map. They're actually recording, and he just went and did like some crazy thing that had nothing to do with the song. And then they said, well, why'd you do that? I said, well, I didn't want to lose it. The universe gave it to me and I couldn't lose it, so I had to put it down. Sorry.
I love that. Yeah.
And so I think like a lot of musicians, like an artist in general, I think you as you get more confident in your art, you're willing to actually let something come through, and maybe you don't understand it, but you let it happen. I think, and then you have to know how to edit that, but sometimes you have to let things happen and not be scared to let it happen. Do you find that that's kind of like an idea?
For sure. I mean, so much of the story ended up being told out of necessity of like the location that we found, and the like what the weather was doing for us, and like how can we achieve our goal given the tools that like nature's given us to work with, essentially.
Yeah, guys. Sometimes you can be like, I've been in bands where I'll get somebody who's like, okay, they have such a precise thing that they want. Somebody else brings something else to the table, and like, no. They keep on wanting to do exactly what they wanted, and they don't want to change it. And that's been like the more frustrating sessions I've had, compared to people who are like, oh, that's pretty cool. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of like it depends on the personality of the people involved. Is like some people are very focused and know what they want exactly and less willing to take input. And then other people are more willing to let something kind of coalesce and become something.
Yeah, I think this was more the second one. Like we were just really open. Sometimes you get attached to ideas, but because nothing was fully formed, like it allowed for a lot of that muse, like that you're talking about, to come into play. Because we were all just kind of going along with it in the moment.
So you find that more, I find that that's more enjoyable in the creative process if you get into that kind of situation, rather than somebody that's telling me to go and play a bass line 100 times.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And
their vision of what they think it should be.
yeah, and like nothing being fully formed yet. Yeah, it does, help in the long run to be open to just see what kind of inspiration comes to you, and you get to put that down. But also, like, anytime you try and control something too much, you usually end up just overdoing it anyway. So if you kind of allow yourself to say, maybe my idea isn't the best one right now, or a lot can happen from just that one.
Yeah, like sometimes we had ideas, especially for this next video, that are like very pie in the sky. It'd be great if we had $20 million budget and 200-person crew.
Right.
But we don't. So how else can we still tell the story? Because the story is more important than all like the fancy visual effects and explosions and stuff. Like really, we just want to tell a compelling story that people can relate to and connect with.
Yeah, it's
kind of actually, sorry, I just want to say that was actually something too that like I think in the beginning, especially thinking of like, the typical music video that's out there right now, you see there is a lot of special effects, and that's not to say there aren't any in our video, but we didn't lean into those as much as actually I think I wanted to in the beginning lean into that, because that's what what I've seen and what I know, and I'm like, let's try this and let's try that, and both Sam and Summer like really, talked a lot about let's tell a compelling story. And the more I the more I let go of that idea of what a typical music video is and let the story come out, the more I felt like it was just becoming something much bigger and much better than I could even have imagined. So.
And that also gets to the fact, I mean, you guys are musicians, and in a video, you have to become an actor. And a lot of acting is very visual. And especially in a music video, it's kind of like the silent film era. A lot of it is all based on kind of your expressions and how you work as an actor and your focus. And that's one thing that's cool about the old silent films. I started watching a lot of old silent films. It's all about the expression in the actor's face. It's all about the kind. So did you guys find that you had to become actors and learn how to channel that, or is that kind of a natural thing that you were getting into and you just took advantage of what you can already do?
Yeah, I mean, we both have some background in acting. We both really have a passion for it, and I think when you're a musician, if you're used to being a front person and a performer, that's part of what you already do, since you are constantly like embodying whatever the song was. So there's an element of that, but there's also this is film. Like, is this going to translate? Am I going to overact? I was really worried about overacting.
Yeah,
but I was crying at the end. Like, I was able to tap into some stuff that made me cry. And I know that I've seen John do stuff I never knew he was capable of throughout this video. Not just higher love, but you'll see the breadth and depth of emotion he has to tap into is a lot. And I was really impressed because he hadn't acted in years. I mean, he's done some film stuff in the past as an extra and stuff, but it's been a long time.
Yeah.
So,
but it's fun to do that too, just to see, like you said, through another medium, through another form of, artistic expression, what can you, deliver? What is the note? What is the ink? What is the thing that you can kind of put forward to show and convey that emotion? And so that was, it was really fun. And again, having support was, really, really, I think, it's just so important because you're especially, as you'll see through some of the other videos, there's a lot of vulnerable moments too. And to do that, you really, really, really have to trust the people around you. So.
And that's what's interesting when you start to do visual media as a musician, right? Is because a lot of times with a song, like your audience, hears the audio and they kind of have their own picture of what how your audience interprets your song. And a lot of times these, fans come up to you and they actually got your lyrics wrong, but that's what they heard. But then when you make a music video, you can kind of guide the audience into what your vision of it is. Versus if somebody just hears the audio, they still probably might have their own interpretation of what they think it is. So what are your thoughts about when you're a musician and you have that video and you are kind of guiding the audience into what you want them to feel?
And I think it's interesting. I'm glad we released the song first because then people could have their own, visuals and connections with it, and then have the video. Again, I don't think it's what you would typically expect from this song. And a lot of music videos now are just beauty shots. They're beautifully, telling a story, but like you said, it's a lot of lip syncing. There's not a lot a big story. So I think it's a really cool way to add a whole nother element to the art that takes it to, a place that maybe people didn't expect and gives it another meaning. Like a lot of songs I watch the video for, sometimes I'll enjoy more, like, oh, I never thought of it like that. And I want to know what it means and why they chose this. So it can add a lot of depth to the art.
Yeah, if you think about Bjork, if you're a Tori Amos, and you might have listened to a Tori Amos song, and then you actually go see what she's in the woods, and there's this whole mystery or something wow. I mean, I heard what she was saying, and I knew it was deep, but then you see the video and wow, it's a total different vision of what I thought it was going to be. And I think it's interesting how a lot of musicians back in the 80s when in MTV was out there were people who did very experimental things where the video had really nothing to do with the lyrics,
Right.
at all. You know, it was just totally kind of psychedelic or new wave, or would go in this weird direction. And that's kind of cool, you know, because like you said, the fan might have heard the song and then suddenly they, you know, they saw Thriller and they're like, wow, I didn't know it was gonna be that.
Right.
Right.
You know, it was like that's totally, I never thought he was gonna go do that. But I think it's a whole different um um take on your music, because your music can hit a whole nother level visually than it did just audio.
Yeah.
um and today musicians, a lot of times we have to have different ways to engage the audience, because the way the world is with musicians today, like we have to find different ways to connect, like what I'm doing with this podcast. Podcasting has become a very good way for to connect with the fans, with the band, so that they actually are more likely to continue to listen to your work, because they
Yeah.
get a connection to you because they visually see you talking about it, and are more likely not to just skip your music and actually listen to more.
Yeah, I think that as fans of music, like obviously we don't just make it; we're fans of it too. But like, there's that part of you that like you hear something amazing and you really respect the artist and you want to know everything about it. You want to know everything about how that song was made and where it came from and what inspired them, and like I'm definitely 100% that dude who just like, I will go on a deep dive to find out everything. I want to know the instrumentation, like how was it start on a guitar or what. I want to know it all, because when you love a song that much and you connect with it too, like in your own personal way, on your own level, you want to understand like how is it that this artist who doesn't know you from anything, who doesn't know your story or your life, was able to make a song that resonates so deeply with you. You want to know that whole process. So
Yeah, how music touches people is really, it's somehow you don't understand it exactly, why a song, one person might have a song and it really deeply affects them, because it triggers like the sound paintings. Like a lot of times music will trigger emotions or trigger memories, and the fans, they love that song. Like I would listen to Karen Carpenter and I get like pictures of like times in the 70s, because I grew up in the 70s with her music on 8-track, right, as a kid. So every time I hear a Carpenter song, I kind of picture myself as a 12-year-old when I heard it. And it actually triggers that in me
Yep.
when I hear it. And I like, then I kind of understand like why people have like a favorite song that kind of triggers that emotion.
Yeah, absolutely. And another part of my life is doing music. I'm a music therapist, and they look a lot at how music affects our brain. And it's very much entwined with our memories. And that's why when you hear a certain song, you could talk about the event and won't bring up the memory like hearing the song. It'll bring you right back to when you're 12 years old or 15-year-old. It's your first relationship. It just transports you. And then the other part is the amygdala, the emotion. Music really can cut through all of our, walls and really affect our emotions deeply.
Is that as a musician, did you get into music because you wanted to relay those kind of stories? Because I think what happens with musicians and the artists in general are able to tap in to the personal things that go on in your life and then make it more universal so that other people can understand it, or have or you take one of the things, I mean, a musician can take something that's like a tragedy in their life or a painful moment in their life and make a beautiful piece of art that is relatable to multiple people from different places and different walks of life. And it's like that kind of our nature is to be able to take that and do that. Did you always feel that you could be that type of person?
I mean, that's what I love about music. It's alchemy, any type of art is alchemy. It's taking, I heard that, what are those birds? Peacocks. They swallow thorns to make their feathers that beautiful. And that's how I think of music or art. Like sometimes you take in all this pain and suffering and you make something beautiful with it. Music, film, dance. That's why art is so essential to being human. Like it makes sense of our life and it is universal. So, I mean, I think personally, I tap into that sometimes, not always. Sometimes I get in my head about music and try to be perfect, or I'm just shredding the same scale over and over. But like when you are in that connected space, or almost like out of essential, like it's like you're in so much pain, you have to go to the piano or you have to go to your art form. That's your survival mechanism. Then yes, that alchemy can occur, and it can occur in non-musicians and anybody. I think people naturally do that in their lives when they're, you know, in pain. That's how we survive.
Yeah, I think it's just that like when you're an artist, I think you know, whether it's a painting or an actor, and you can take that and channel it as like a method actor into that kind of into a scene in a film, because you can call that and actually become that person, because you can like, empathize with the character that you're playing, right? And the musicians, we take on characters. A lot of times, I always talk about in my music this idea of the other me, that I can kind of look in the looking glass, and this idea like a Victorian romantic idea, like a Wordsworth or Blakey idea, that you look in this looking glass and whoever looks back is that's the other you. And then that's kind of like your stage persona, is
Mhm.
how you can go on stage. And like, you know, in my case, I play like a female version of myself called Josephine Electric.
Mhm.
I actually use synthesizers to make a female voice, and she's the lead singer of my band.
Mhm.
And I can channel all these things that I couldn't do as a guy, right? Because I'm actually taking on a character.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I'm kind of doing what Bowie did and Prince did, but I actually took it a little further and actually became Josephine Electric. It's not like trying to be like this kind of, you know, cross thing. I'm actually trying to actually play it like a character that is the female version of me.
Yeah.
And so I think like that, you know, music gives you an opportunity to do that. As a, like, I mean, if you think about like when you see a lead singer on stage, it's like, is that really them, or is that their stage
Mhm.
persona? You know?
Right. Right. A lot of times, I think even like, you know, when we're out, we're performing. I don't always remember how any of it goes. Like, you know, it's, you know, maybe the first 2.5 to 3 minutes are what I'll remember the most because the nerves are still there.
Mhm.
But as soon as those kind of shut off and, you know, everything else takes over, yeah, it'll be hard for me to remember anything because it's mostly just at that point, just letting all the raw emotion take over and go forward from there. So it can be, yeah, it's very, it's cool in the sense of like, you know, being your other self, and in another way, it's like, you know, it's a strange feeling to not necessarily know what's going on, but just trusting that, it's all happening the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, I think that all like you know, people who are it leads in music. If you once you get on that stage, you kind of transform. It's kind of like necessary for you to have, because like I think a lot of musicians that have self doubts and have like before they get on stage, or like they may even still be doubting whatever. And as soon as they get on stage, then suddenly, okay, I'm free. I'm free to just do whatever I'm gonna do. And in this space, I'm gonna just present in my art. And in a way, you kind of get in a trance, and I think you forget, like you said, I like I've done performances and people have said, "Wait, did you know you did this?" I was like, "I don't know, I can't remember what it's like." You show me the film and like, okay, I did it, but I didn't know I was doing that. But yeah, you just kind of you get into this kind of like fervor,
Yeah.
and you're into like, you know, it's like you're in a gospel church and people get into this fervor and they can't, and people say, well, you know, you were doing that in church. It's like, I don't know, I just got into it.
Yeah.
And I think people just kind of can get into this phase where they feel like they're channeling something, like the
Yeah.
muse we talk about, this universal thing in the ether or whatever. You just pick up on it, and you kind of, you got to be free in yourself. I think musicians were free to kind of tap into that.
Yeah, I mean, especially because most of the time, I think we spend so much time being self-aware, just wondering if we're playing the right notes or like making the
Yeah.
right sounds or whatever it is that, like, once you've seen a project through or you've seen a song through, whatever it is you're doing, at that point, the rest is just commitment, just believing in what you've done, and then, doing your best to convey that and for your audience, for everyone else. So I mean, like you said, I think the most important part of performing live is like letting people see you like absolutely raw, in your most pure form. And that means, giving up any sense of self-awareness for those precious minutes that you're doing it, so that, your audience can look at you and feel, because they're, in a sense, they're vulnerable too. They're trusting you to deliver an experience for them that's going to move them, or that's going to, give them joy. So, it's a mutual trust society.
And that kind of goes toward the way music is today, because you have a lot of different forms now where people might not be as spontaneous, right? There's a lot of devices for musicians that allow them to kind of, okay, I can make this when I go out and play, I can actually make it sound exactly like the record. And it's almost like you could phone it in, and I'm kind of an old school musician. Like if I go out and I do one of my songs, one of the things I like to do is actually reinterpret it and maybe do it differently than I actually put it down, just because it's more interesting for me to do it that way. And if I want to play it the way I wrote it, like fine, I can do it. But a lot of times, I think a lot of reasons why you go to see a band, like I would go see the Allman Brothers or go see Funkadelic, was because I wanted to see how they were going to reinterpret it.
Right.
That was the whole point. If I want to just listen to the record, I could listen to the record.
Right.
So today, because of the way things are, have you primarily just been working on the visual project? Have you been able to perform it all live anywhere?
We've been focused on the visual, yeah, because things are just so up and down with, COVID and everything that's happening, that this is just a newfound passion that we found. Like Sam's helped start teaching me how to edit a little bit, and it's just a whole new way to express and to create. We haven't been we haven't really done any like online performances or anything, because we're just so immersed in this project, which, by the way, we constantly say is like so ambitious, and we had no idea what we were getting into, and how do we know? We probably wouldn't have done it, but we're this far in now, so we have to finish.
Gotta see it through.
But it is, we don't realize, like, especially for me, I'm totally new to the film world. It's like everything that goes into it, which makes sense. Like you think about a 3-minute song, and it's so much goes into making a 3-minute song. That to make a 25-minute video, you're just like, oh, there's a shit ton of work that goes into this, and a lot of different expertise, and knowing what we can learn how to do. Maybe some things we need some support and need to ask other people to do, because obviously can't master everything. But I'm honestly really proud that we're just a 3-person outfit and have done most of it, and we've had a lot of help, but we're the little engine that could in this situation.
Well, I think you actually, tapped into something that, based on the time, the visuals, as I said, everything's like in a visual way today. Like a lot of people, they consume music, in a visual way. And so to even if you can't perform live, by the fact that you're creating this project, you can still reach your fans. And so they still can, access your work, and they can see it in a way that they can get engaged. And I think that's really awesome, because that's what we've been doing with a lot of bands. We've been actually, providing them a way to perform. Like we did a festival earlier this year where we had like 22 guests actually play 30-minute sets in what we call the Peg Bedroom Producer Festival. We're doing another one in February. But like, I don't know if your guys we're going to continue to do these. So if at some point in time you do want to play live in February, we're actually doing a concert where people can just play from their home studio. But if you're not ready because you're still working on this, but we'll probably do another one in July. But we just want to
that'd be awesome to be a part of, for sure. Yeah. We're excited to get back to live performing. I think right now where we're at, our heart is really in finishing this and delivering, this what was intended to just be a couple of music videos now a short film.
Yeah,
But,
it's really awesome.
yeah, it's gonna be. I don't want to hype it up too much, but honestly,
The
like
most epic thing you'll ever see.
It would be cool to actually see it.
I think we're telling a fun story. I think we're telling a good story, maybe not as fun as I think.
That's
Like,
fun.
yeah, no, but it's going to be a good story. It's going to be, it's definitely going to be interesting to watch for sure. And there's so much more. I wish I could say more without giving it all away. But there's so much. There's more to this than just film. There's other parts to it that you'll see that will come up, and we've collaborated with a few other people, and as we get closer to that, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But
yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd like to get more. When you get closer to the full presentation of the end product of
yeah,
this whole,
absolutely.
that'd be
We'd
awesome.
love to come back and have Sam come back to you and talk about the process of the whole film, because it's just in this alone, just the editing of this video alone, and Sam did some of the effects on the video as well. Like it's really like an incredible process to just watch peripherally, and to understand what goes into it to really make it because to film it is one thing, but to edit it and tell a compelling story out of that footage is really.
Have you guys created any kind of? Have you created any footage of actually creating this? Like, are you gonna have like in the full project, if you released it as a DVD, would you have the making of
like behind the scenes
stuff to be able to tack on and have it like a special edition with how we made it?
Yeah, we did our best to shoot as much behind the scenes as possible. For some of it was hard because it was just the three of us. So I'd be filming and they'd be acting, and there would be no behind the scenes.
Fourth or fifth person to do that.
Right. But we got some good stuff. They released some on their Instagram today.
Cool.
A little bit. So
yeah, Sam put together like a little featurette.
Yeah, I saw that. That's why I kind of brought
a little bit of the behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I think once we get closer to the release of the film itself, there'll probably be something more to add to
6 hour behind the scenes to go with the 20.
Yeah, it'll be our Beatles anthology, exactly.
Yeah.
Just 10 hours of footage, even though the video itself.
Or like we don't want to watch this.
Do you think you would ever like tour like the audio version as a live show?
We've talked about that. Like actually, when we talk about how we want to launch this video, obviously we really would love to rent a theater, but also we talked about doing a live show along with it. So the first time you see it, you're also getting a live performance. And
yeah,
why not take it on the road? That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
That'd be cool, because if you actually had video screen and found a way to integrate actually playing and then having the video behind you, if it worked, you could integrate it, be kind of like a Pink Floyd thing,
Yeah.
Actually showing the wall while you're playing the wall.
Right.
But yeah, that's I'm a big fan of that. I know we're kind of pressed for time, so I can give you a little bit of a breather before your next thing. It's 9:53.
Yeah, we're having a watch party tonight for people who helped make the movie. So
yeah, so I'll give 7 minutes back to you so you can get set for that. But I do appreciate that you came on the show again, and we'll be putting this out, and we'll give you the links. Again, it will be on Spotify shortly. So the visual, so people will actually be able to watch this on Spotify video podcast. We are now able to put video podcast on the Spotify. We want to let people know that so they can watch this there.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having us.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being on, and we definitely will follow you on this journey. We did talk to you before, and this is the second time. So yeah, we want to be there when you finally complete the journey and get the short film done. That would be really awesome to present to our audience. So thank you very much, and good luck with everything you're doing.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.